Hey everybody, this is Claire, and this is Small Joyful Things. As always, I go out to thrift stores, or I go to estate sales, or sometimes I buy things from Craigslist, and I look for things that either I think will tell me a story, or that I just happen to find interesting. And then I try to find out as much as I can about them, and then tell you guys about them. So here's what I've got today. This is something very delicate and very vintage, but I hope you guys can see it properly. This is a spun glass figurine. And it's going to be hard to kind of get it in shot because it's so tall. Like, I'm going to just lay it down so that you can kind of see it a little bit better. So this is spun glass, so it is incredibly delicate, and I've been terrified of it ever since I saw it. I've been absolutely terrified of even touching it because it's so delicate. All these tiny little strands are literally just like tiny thin strands of glass, which have been kind of like wrapped around. They would have done this while the glass is actually molten and can be kind of molded and drawn around the place and everything. And I can show you some of the examples here. You can see how they actually did it, just wrapping it up into these ruffles and layers. Now the pontil at the bottom here is actually rough. And the interesting thing about this one is that this center tube here that you can kind of see underneath all the decoration, it is actually like a plain hollow tube, and it is open at the top. I had great fun cleaning this, I'll tell you that much. And so, okay, before we get ahead of ourselves, I'm going to put this down very carefully, and we are going to measure it up very, very carefully. It is just about 9.5 inches tall and about 3.25 inches at the widest part. So it's fairly sizable. The other thing I know about this is that it is definitely a vintage piece. And I know this because when I got it, you could not barely see anything about it because it was covered in a thick layer of dirt. And actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut in a video that I took of me washing this in my sink, because I just could not believe the sheer amount of dust on this. And it was just dust. I was lucky that it all washed off quite easily. So if you pause, I'm just going to pause for 2 seconds, a little bit of an aside. Here's a video of what this looked like before I managed to clean it all up. Okay, so we've got that. Right. So back to this. So what else can we say about it? Okay, apart from the fact that it's spun glass, it is very, very like delicately made. The little, you can see the little birds in the fountain, and this is actually obviously this is a fountain. They're playing in the water, and this represents the water kind of itself. You know, the big gush of the fountain itself. Now, the one thing that I can say is that like the blue is not actually like it's not like an actual color of the glass as far as I can tell. That is painted or flashed on. And you can just about see this. Like I've seen a few little marks or whatever like that where basically someone painted in and didn't quite get it there, you know. Now it's still beautiful, but just to be clear, that is like it's not like they did like different colored of glass or whatever. No, you can see there that they actually painted the little details on. And I like originally this would have been made entirely out of clear glass. So if I very carefully put this down to one side, I'm going to show you some stuff here. So normally when you see spun glass, all right, what you see is these, which is spun glass ornaments. And that's usually things like Christmas ornaments or like very tiny little things. But a lot of it would be these kind of Christmas ornaments. Like in the Victorian times, like this, about 100 years ago, having spun glass Christmas ornaments was like this all the rage. So there's a lot of like really antique ones that you see would have been from that time, like this one here. I've seen a lot of these where you'll get like birds with this lovely fan of like basically glass strands or whatever. It looks very impressive. The thing about it that's unusual about this, and part of the reason why I got it, because I have seen spun glass figurines and stuff every once in a while, and occasionally an ornament. This one is particularly unusual because it is so big. This is, as far as I can tell, the biggest like spun glass ornament I have ever seen. And I've seen pictures of these online. I can't find one bigger than this. 9.5 inches is ridiculous. So if you take a look here, right, if you have some examples of actual figurines as opposed to the ornaments or whatever. Ornaments, by the way, tend to be quite small. Like even these little birds and everything like that, they'll be like 3 or 4 inches high at most, for all that they're incredibly delicate and all this. But like the very big ones, they're just very, very uncommon. And there's so many different examples. Like the ones of the ships, I gotta say, are the ones that really impress me, because that is all spun glass and it's done, you can see, in the same style as this one. It's possibly from the same era. I don't have a price, unfortunately, on a lot of these. But if you take a look at that, can you imagine having something like that in your house made out of glass? For the record, I have 2 small children and I'm terrified just having this. So anyway, what else can we actually say about this? I ended up going onto eBay and just taking a quick look around to see, well, what do spun glass figurines actually go for? For the record, I bought this for $3.40 Canadian. The figurines will vary a bit. They kind of, the small ones will go for maybe $5 to $6, depending on how complex they are and what condition they're in. And bigger ones like this will go for maybe $15 or $20. I don't think there's much of a market, you know, because millennials don't seem to be interested in kind of collecting a lot of this kind of small little, you know, china cabinet type stuff or little tchotchkes. Like, and I say this being a millennial, we tend to be very concerned, you know, discerning about what kind of decorative objects we want. It's like, I kind of think that millennials kind of prefer to have 1 or 2 like very nice decorative objects, and just don't go for like the vast array of decorative objects that maybe the Victorians would have gone for, which like, and like in you know, maybe in the mid-century this sort of stuff would have been a lot more popular. So anyway, this, as far as I can tell, is probably from, like, it's going to be vintage, and I'm actually probably guessing this around the 1970s. It seems about right based on different styles and everything that I've seen. 1970s, maybe 1980s. I don't think they were making ones like this like past then. And earlier than that, I think it's unlikely, if only because I doubt it would have survived. So I'm basing this as kind of from reading on different styles, and then just the fact that it was covered in so much dust when I got it. Like, I get the feeling that this was something that was bought like in the 1970s and then put up on a shelf and, you know, to be looked at and admired and everything, and then forgotten about. And somebody passed away and it ended up going to a thrift store and was forgotten about. It is still very nice, and I will be putting it up on eBay, because there is something of a market for spun glass. It's not big, I don't say, and it's definitely not as popular as it was, but I think a large figurine like this, especially one that's intact, like all of it is perfect. All the last pieces are all perfect. It has survived at least, you know, 50 years, I think. So I'm pretty sure that someone who collects spun glass is going to really like it. I'm going to be as careful as possible with it. I have to be so careful. I'm so terrified that something's going to happen to it because it's so delicate. So there you go, guys. This is my small joyful thing for today. I hope you guys enjoyed as much as I do.